Gordon, my first question to you is, we had you on the show last year when we were talking about ways to close the gaping maw of budget deficits that extend ad infinitum. And one of the ways is, to grow the economy, but we've got a problem with workforce growth because women are marrying later and having fewer children. And one of the ways to improve or increase the labor force is immigration to bring high skilled uh, workers here to the United States. Um, and your research last year, we were talking about how there were some very simple things
Yep.
that we could do without changing immigration law at all, just to improve the number of highly skilled immigrants who are working here in the United States. And that was addressing the visa backlog. You were
Yep.
talking about there was this enormous backlog in high skilled visas. And you were literally talking about this is one instance where government can just throw a ton of money at the problem and fix it without having to worry about all of the morass that's going on at the border
Right.
and all the other politics. So we know now that we've got a border proposal sitting in the Senate. It's in a broader bill called a security supplemental. It has money for Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, Taiwan, etc. But it also has money to address uh, immigration at the border. And I'm curious whether or not you've had a chance to take a look at that bill yet, and whether or not it has the appropriations inside of it that might address this backlog of immigration visas and might help jumpstart an increase in United States labor force.
Yeah. So let me take one quick step back just to speak to the research I was doing, and some others have also weighed on this. Is fundamentally the processing, the administrative component of immigration, in addition to all of the other challenges related to immigration, is also a bit of a mess. In that there were millions of folks waiting for the processing of various visas, and to include sort of employment visas, the ability to work, in an economy that was struggling and has confronting the demographic factors that we talked about. This is a no-brainer. People want to come here. They want to work. We should let them. And just we had a bureaucratic backlog, and a lot of it was headcount. There just weren't enough bodies to process the paper, and there's related a resource constraint in that the agency that whose mission it is to process these visas was constrained by funding, which is to say their funding wasn't provided through appropriations acts. Instead, it was a multi-year fee schedule that had to go through the Administrative Procedures Act. And basically, the agency is required to be self-financing almost entirely. It's somewhat of a rarity in the United States, whereby visa applicants essentially pay for the agency. So fees are set for visas, and that funds the agency. But that provides no capacity whatsoever to dig out from the hole they were in, which was on the order of 5 million applications. They were literally forced to basically live hand to mouth. And over the course of the pandemic, there were some appropriations to provide USCIS with some resources to start digging. And that has been that was done. It didn't resolve fully the backlog. This border bill does involve a couple things related to this. First, they do provide an appropriation for the agency. Now, a lot of it is more oriented to some of the more enforcement side, but there is a component in the bill that is mindful of the importance of legal immigration, and it expands employment visas. Several, to the extent the backlog was about 5 million before, and some years higher. 50,000 new employment visas is not gonna, again, kind of like the tax bill. Good policy, just not big enough to really move the dial, and this is kind of like that. The scope and scale of our labor force challenge requires much much bigger, our economy is massive. We need large numbers of people to work in it. And 50,000 isn't going to do it. Some of the money, some of the funding will help in this effort, but there's more to do fundamentally.